What is up, guys? Rick Kakis here, and this is a new episode of Fan-Made Exotics, the only series that lets you submit your exotic weapon, armor, ghost shell, or heck, any Destiny exotic idea and have a chance for a realistic concept art to be made for it. Now that's because we've partnered with the artists Benjamin Radaman and Michael aka Rageblade, both of which will have their deviant arts linked in the description down below. Now I often get a lot of people telling me that this is their favorite series, that they always look forward for a new episode of Fan-Made Exotics, but this series is not doing too well right now, so if you do enjoy it, please remember to take the time and also support it. Just some real talk for you guys. Now, if you want to make a submission, all you need to do is make a comment in the comment section down below, including what the weapon or armor piece would look like for the artist, and any other perks, stats to kind of bolster up that you've thought about your idea, and of course, its exotic perk or perks. Now, let's move on to the 5 featured concepts we're going over this week. All of these concepts came from the comment section of last episode. And then after that, we're going to talk about some tips for getting your ideas selected. So let's get started with the first exotic concept for today by Michael aka Rageblade. And this is the Detox XRM exotic auto rifle concept by Kandider. Now this weapon has the exotic perk Ground War. The more allies and enemies that are in your range, this weapon gains better handling, faster reload speed, and reduced recoil. So that is actually a pretty unique perk. So the more allies nearby, if you're sticking with your team, you're going to have a better functioning gun. The more enemies that are nearby, if you put yourself in danger, you're going to have a better functioning gun. And if you're part of some sort of insane PvP 6v6 battle over the B flag, you're going to have an insanely good gun. And of course that comes up in those PvP scenarios, but also in PvE, you are surrounded by enemies non-stop. So this Ground War perk is going to be triggering like crazy. You're going to have a very accurate gun with a very fast reload. And you're going to be near your allies, especially in a raid scenario even. So this is actually, again, a pretty interesting idea. The actual benefits it gives you, I mean, there's certainly some good benefits. Faster reload speed and reduced recoil especially will really help your gun's performance. But there's no increase to even damage. That's something that's pretty risky, but that would be nice, especially in PvE. There's no increase to range. Maybe I would add something like that. But the payoffs are still there. And if you only need like 1 or 2 allies / enemies nearby before you get a decent enough recoil bonus, this could definitely be worth using in something like a PvP environment. So moving on now, we have the Honor of Null exotic Titan helmet concept by Xuls-Legacy. This is the helmet that could potentially give blink to Titans. Okay, so what we have here for the exotic perk is Flight of Null. Grants the user a stackable blink ability for 5 seconds after each precision kill. Stacks up to 20 seconds. So this honestly is one of the best ideas for how to incorporate the blink ability to a Titan that I have seen. A lot of the times we just have unlocks blink for Titan. That could definitely be a bit much. Titans are not meant to have the blink ability, and so blink in combination with, I don't know, shoulder strike could be ridiculous. So there's some worries there. But this idea, the Flight of Null ability, where you actually have to get a precision kill in order to activate your blink, and then you get blink for 5 seconds. It stacks up to 20 seconds, so if you get, 2 precision kills, you're going to have 10 seconds where you can keep using blink. If you get a bunch of precision kills, you can have, again, up to 20 seconds where you can just blink to your heart's content. This is going to be very useful in PvE. It's basically going to constantly keep up blink. Getting precision kills in there is very easy to do. You can just mow through a bunch of thralls and get blink for 20 seconds, and then I'm sure you're going to get a precision shot in that 20 seconds. In PvP, it's probably going to be where people want to use it. And for that scenario, I think 5 seconds might be a little bit much of a requirement. I would definitely change that to, 15 seconds. You get a precision kill to activate it, and actually going out and getting a precision kill before you're able to use blink, that is definitely like a hard requirement. You don't just automatically get this ability. So that is kind of the balancing factor. But once you do get that, I think you could realistically have 25-15 seconds worth of blink activations before you have to get your next precision kills. And I think that would kind of refrain this thing from being ridiculous. It's the problem when you just give blink automatically to Titans, and this solves that. So definitely an interesting idea. Now moving on from there, we have the Angel's Wisp exotic scout rifle concept by Johnny Jew. This has a few unique abilities. Firstly, we have the intrinsic perk, A Brave Soul. When your super is charged, after you die, your teammates will gain bonus movement speed and weapon speed until revived. I think weapon speed just means aim down sights time, reload speed, all of that stuff. So, I'm going to stop right there. That first perk I really like. In fact, I would really love Bungie to turn that into a normal perk, hopefully in Destiny 2, if they're watching, where, yeah, if you die, if you get killed, you can start granting bonuses to your teammates. There could be a ton of different perks within that same category. If you're dead, your teammates gain bonus movement speed. If you're dead, your teammates gain bonus reload speed, all of that stuff. And that could be very useful in strikes, very useful in PvP activities, in Trials of Osiris. Having a weapon with that kind of ability where if you die, if you're dead, your teammates then gain bonus movement speed, that is very powerful. Like, that would be a top tier perk competing with stuff like, rangefinder for your guns and stuff like that. So I think that is a very, very interesting and kind of unexplored design space that Bungie could toy with. So again, very interesting idea. The next perk is the exotic perk. It's called Second Chance. At the cost of your super, you can revive yourself from death. Now, that is very interesting. Being able to revive yourself from death is an extremely powerful ability. Only one subclass can do it, and it takes up a subclass node. Now, of course, the exotic perk makes it so that you actually do have to use your super. It'll take up your super as well. You can't just have this ability to revive. Of course, that would be incredibly overpowered. So that is the balancing factor. You have to have a full super, just like a normal Sunsinger Warlock. You're also going to have to be using this particular exotic weapon to gain that ability. And that is definitely a payoff. Like, if this gun was in the game right now, would you use it? Seriously, think about that. If you're in the Vault of Glass, would you give up the Sleeper Simulant to use this gun? Would you give up any of the exotic primaries that do more damage against oracles to use this gun to get reload? I'm sure some of you would say, yeah, that's a really powerful ability to be able to revive yourself, but I think a lot of other you guys would say, no, I'm not giving up my Sleeper Simulant, I'm not giving up my, exotic Fatebringer or any of that stuff. Those are very useful. So I think if you actually think about it, this gun is maybe more balanced than it may actually appear. Now, moving on, we have an incredibly cool looking concept. It's the Ripper exotic auto rifle concept by Infamous, and this takes design inspiration from the Call of Duty Ghosts Ripper gun. Now, this weapon does have a few unique abilities. The first one is the main perk, Bloodlust. Getting 2 rapid precision kills will empower your next magazine by 1.5 times. Essentially, it will increase your magazine size by 50%. Now, the exotic perk is Sadism. Killing an enemy while critically wounded will refund your magazine and increase your damage resistance drastically for 5 seconds. So, pretty interesting ideas here. Firstly, the Bloodlust perk, where if you get 2 rapid precision kills, you'll get a 50% magazine bonus. That's going to be pretty good for PvE. Triggering it is going to be easy, and the bonus is quite good. You want large magazines in PvE. It's just going to help against boss DPS and against normal low-tier enemy killing. The Sadism perk is definitely going to be more useful, I think, in both PvE and PvP. Killing an enemy while critically wounded will refund the magazine, already very useful, and increase your damage resistance. Now, increasing your damage resistance is pretty interesting because you're still going to be at that low health. You're still going to be at low health, but you'll take less damage. And it kind of works like a slightly different life support. Life support is already a perk in the game, where if you get a kill when you're critically wounded, it has a chance to gain you more health. And that kind of does the same thing, except for instead of gaining health, you're gaining damage resistance. The benefit is kind of the same. You're harder to kill in both scenarios. There's just some slight nuances that both will address. And if you have more damage resistance while you're regenerating your health and you have it at the trail end of that 5 seconds and you get a grenade or something and you still have that damage resistance, you're going to be able to get a bigger benefit from that. Having damage resistance and full health is much more useful than just getting your full health. So that's the one benefit for this perk, but again, it's likely to not come up because it only lasts for 5 seconds. Your health will be regenning by the time your damage resistance is going away. But overall, pretty interesting weapon. Now moving on, the last exotic concept we're going over today is the Atheon's Shell, exotic ghost shell concept by Ferrari Failure. Now this concept has 2 unique perks. The first one is Time's Vengeance. When your super is full, your allies will do 5% more damage and recover quicker. Now moving on from there, we have the other exotic perk, Fabric of Time and Space. When you are the last alive in your fire team, you can do more damage at the cost of your recovery speed. So, I'm sure some of you are wondering, how would an exotic ghost shell work? Well, there's basically 2 design philosophies behind it. The one is that it would work somewhat similarly to the exotic class items already in the game, where you can use them in combination with an exotic armor piece. They don't take up an exotic slot, but they have a unique ability, often a subtle ability. The other design philosophy is what this falls into, where it takes up your exotic armor slot. You can't use this in combination with, the armamentarium or any other exotic armor pieces. This is your exotic armor piece, and then it tends to have much more powerful exotic abilities. So let's talk about those exotic abilities. 5% more damage and recover quicker for Time's Vengeance. That seems very, very good, frankly, very close to overpowered. But is it overpowered? I mean, we already have the Scories artifact, and that doesn't even take up an exotic slot, and that, as long as you have a full super, charges your allies' supers. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to do 5% more damage all the time, but the amount of kills that result from the Scories is arguably more than what a 5% damage bonus would cause. 5% damage bonus to a lot of weapons like the palindrome and stuff, it wouldn't decrease the amount of shots it takes to kill, and a lot of weapons would fall into the same boat. However, 5% could be substantial. We could always lower it to 3%, 2%, just some sort of bonus to make it an actual bonus that you want to get, but also fair and balanced. With that being said, giving up your super and giving up an exotic slot. You can't use, one of the exotics that give you an extra grenade, which are super useful to get this ability that is quite the trade-off. The other ability where you're last alive, you can do more damage. Again, how much damage would definitely vary. We try to balance that, maybe 5% for there, being able to do more damage, and then you lose a little bit of recovery speed, so that downside could maybe bump it up to 6 or 7% more damage. It's definitely an interesting ability, and it's going to need some tweaking to make sure it's balanced, but Destiny wouldn't have any exotics if Bungie wasn't willing to tackle cool, unique, and sometimes powerful ideas. And so guys, that is it for the 5 featured concepts we're showing today. Now, as for some tips for getting selected. Firstly, try to self-regulate your idea. Make sure that your idea isn't overpowered. Getting a kill and instantly getting an overshield is likely going to be a bit much. On top of that, try to ensure that your idea is realistic for Destiny. Getting a kill and turning into a dragon sounds cool, but it's not actually ever going to be in the game. Aside from that, make sure that your idea isn't overly complicated. This is a big one. If every single perk is unique and it would take me 10 minutes just to explain your weapon, we can't select you. So try to make it relatively simple. It's got to fit in Destiny. You've got to have a little sentence that pops up in the menu when you scroll over the exotic perk. It can't be a massive paragraph that pops up, alright? Now, aside from that, however, you are free to experiment outside of the traditional norms. Don't be afraid to make SMGs, laser rifles, heavy hand cannons, heavy sniper rifles. Any of that stuff is wide open and we accept all of that stuff. Last episode we did an exotic spear melee weapon. So again, let your creativity flow. And moving on from there, guys, the last thing we're going to do is to shout out all of the different concepts created since last week. Firstly, we have the Forge Lance exotic pulse rifle concept by CobraCon. After that, we have the Endless Conduit exotic heavy Tesla concept by Peyton Barrett. Moving on from there, we have the Cactus Rage exotic scout rifle concept by Adam Warren. After that, we have the HV90 Pile Driver exotic sniper concept by Matt 1.0. And so guys, that is it for today's video. Again, I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny content and don't want to miss out on the next episode of Fan-Made Exotics, be sure to slap that subscribe button. Now, if you guys want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That's linked in the description down below, as is my Twitch channel, which you can also follow. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.